name is Amber Rainey and I live with sensory processing disorder. Sometimes my condition makes me feel isolated from other people, but sometimes I find unexpected connections. My guest today is Gregg, and like him, I too have a disorder that has a spectrum. Sensory processing disorder is a complete spectrum. There are people that are mildly affected all the way to people that cannot live their lives because they're so affected. I'm not in the middle, I'm closer to high, but it's better now than it was when I was a child and earlier. Unfortunately, my sensory processing disorder also causes me to have obsessive compulsive disorder. And so I used to be really, really bad about, I would clean the baseboards of my house with a toothbrush every other day kind of thing. So you cannot lump everybody that has sensory processing disorder together and say, oh, it's all this and that's the only thing you're affected by. My son, who also has sensory processing disorder, tends to have more anxiety as a cause of his and less OCD. But I do find that routines help and conditioning helps, just like someone can condition themselves to lessen their disease. I can condition myself to lessen some of the impacts of my sensory processing disorder. But Gregg doesn't live with SPD, he lives with asthma. Thank you for coming, Gregg.
No problem, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Can you describe asthma in your own words?
It's it's not like my personal asthma, it's mostly exercise induced, so even when it's well controlled, and even though I've walked 5 miles a day to get to work before, it can still pop up at any time. Basically, my asthma is just a lingering kind of, hey, I'm here, I could just sneak attack you anytime I wanted to, but usually it doesn't. It's usually about a year between I ever actually need an inhaler, but I've never had a full-on attack since I did an event called the Big Climb, which was just climbing up the stairs of the Columbia Tower in Seattle. That was the last time I actually had a full-on attack. Other than that, it's just for me, just mostly a nagging thought in the back of my head that it could spring at any time, but I don't let it get in the way of what I do. Most people have that stereotype of the asthmatic kid in gym class who is wheezing his lungs out trying to keep up. I mean, when I'm exercising, I might actually sound a lot more dire than I actually am, because when I pick up the pace, sure, you'll hear me what sounds like wheezing to me, or to you, well, rather, what sounds like wheezing to you, but I'm actually feeling totally fine inside. It's just that's what I happen to sound like while I'm breathing. It might also be the case that I've just basically been pushing through it anyway, no matter how much my body screams at me not to, but it always, for my personal asthma, always sounds a lot worse than it actually is. Like, I might be walking up a hill, you'll hear me going, but I feel perfectly fine inside. Like, my lungs aren't constricting or what have you. But if you want, like, the best summary I can give in words, it's a wild card. It's a wild card that on maybe one day out of the year knocks me flat, but any other day I'll be just fine. I can do whatever I need to.
How do you feel asthma affects you in today's society?
Not nearly as much as some people think it probably should. Most people, when they think of asthma, they think of the short guy with the glasses who's constantly puffing on his inhaler. Gregg, I used to be criminally short. Like, used to be the short guy, didn't have glasses. For a while, I was pretty stricken with it, but even so, it delayed me more than it stopped me from doing what I needed to. But the best way I can say that is that it doesn't affect me nearly as much as people think that it should. It's no longer debilitating. I don't remember for sure if it ever was, but it's just yeah, I get a lot of shit. Are you sure you should be doing this particular physical thing? And I'm like, I will let you know if my asthma is getting the better of me. And if I brought my inhaler with me, it's only because I haven't done that thing before and I haven't gauged whether or not I can get through that session without needing it. But rarely do I ever actually need it during a particular thing, a particular physical activity. And yeah, so I know how mine works, and you really don't need to ask me how I'm doing at any given time, because if it's getting to me, I will let you know. Like I'm not gonna try to hide it until it's too late. No, I'll let you know if I need a break. But I don't know if that goes for everyone, but it goes for me at the very least. But yeah, just it doesn't put me on the ground as much as people might think it does.
What do you think is important to know, for people to know about asthma?
It's a scale. Like, severity of asthma is a scale. It really is. It's some people, like, I'm on like the higher end of this. I'm on like, well, higher or lower, whichever one you mean. Like, I'm on the end of the scale that's pretty much like least affected. Mostly because I know what I need to do to keep it at bay, or just to keep it from stopping me. I know what I need to do on that part. And even when it does act up, I have all my plans and countermeasures ready for it. But like, even though I've had it all my life, even though I was born with it, I'm still one of the more luckier ones as far as how it affects me, because it's not as much a spectrum as it is a scale, because there really is one end and there is another end, and there's the in-between bits where some people, where like people like me, I'll walk 5 miles a day to get to work, and I won't bat an eye. And then there are some people who probably have to carry the whole nebulizer kit with them just in case they're sitting down and suddenly their lungs decide to quit. But yeah, so it's a scale, and more often than not, people who have it, people who have lived with it for a while, they know what they need to do in the event of something happening, and they have a plan in place. Like, because it's very rare, at least in my experience, for a person who has asthma to need advice about it from somebody who knows someone who has asthma. You know what I mean? Like, the people who say, oh, you should do this or that. Like, usually they figured that out by now. At least for me. I've figured out what I need to do by now. I've figured out whether or not I need to carry an inhaler with me on a given day, and it's very seldom. And I know how to operate nebulizer equipment and fill it up, refill it, yada yada yada. How to use the inhaler with the spacer. I know the benefits of the spacer versus just 2-finger distance with the puff. But yeah, unless it's a rather young person, or like a person who might not even know they have asthma, generally they know how bad it is for them, and they have their own plan that they know in like the back of their hand, and if they need something out of you, they'll let you know. Or at least I'll let you know. I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for me, and I'll at the very least let you know. And the people who I know who have asthma, they'll let you know too if they need something out of you.
So do you feel like it's best if people, like if you're having like wheezing and stuff, is it best for people around you to just let you manage yourself, or does it annoy you if they ask you, like, hey?
It only annoys me if they ask me. If you hear something, I'm not going to hold it against you though. Like, I get it, my wheezing sounds bad, and I'll just say, I'll let you know if I need help. But like or I might even go so far as to say, just keep your eye on me, sure. But I can only speak for myself. It only annoys me slightly, and I still won't hold it against you. But the part that I hold against you is when you start offering unsolicited advice. That's what I'll actually hold against you. I won't hold it against you for being like, you're alright, you need a break, and I'll be like, and then I can stop for a minute, think, no, I'm good. If you insist I take a break, though, I might get a little annoyed at you. But yeah, just I know the extent of what I can do with my asthma, and I mean, even though I'm of the opinion that like the only person who knows what's best for you is yourself, like, even though I really strongly hold to that, like, if I need help, I will ask you, and if you need help, you will ask me. I still understand that that's not always the case, but I won't hold it against you if you ask me if I'm all right. I'll hold it against you if you start insisting that I do something. I mean, I'll get it. Maybe you have the best intentions, but just the kind of person I am is that I know what's best for me. But I mean, yeah. But I get it. Everybody wants to be the one who knows. Even so, I had the words, now I've lost them. But even so, yeah. Ask if you want to. Don't tell me to, though.
What does it feel like and look like when you have an asthma attack?
Okay, so last time it happened, I'll just go through like what last time it happened because that's still pretty vivid, even though it was years ago. I was in middle school then. But I'll just recount the events. Basically, I got to the top of the Columbia Tower stairs in downtown Seattle because that was the event, the big climb. And suddenly, I just suddenly dropped on my knees and hit my chest because I felt like it was compressing, and I literally just been like that because like I don't know why. Maybe I'd like hit yourself and you'll start working on a computer, but dang if it doesn't work sometimes. And don't worry about. I mean, people didn't start worrying about me when I was wheezing. They instead started worrying about me when I like coughing and wheezing. That's when people were like checking on me and making sure I was all right. People started worrying about me when that stopped. It's kind of like when you're experiencing hypothermia and you suddenly stop shivering. That's when that's when it's really about to hit the fan then. Because when you stop freezing, that means your body starts shutting down in hypothermia, and you suddenly feel warm now because now your body's shutting down. For me, as long as what happened was that I hit the floor on my knees, and I was able to stand myself up, but I needed balance. Grabbed the inhaler from my pocket, grabbed the albuterol from my pocket, hit that. Then of course my mother, like 20 minutes later, came up the stairs and had the exact same thing happen. But the actual attack, it's gonna be me like going, and there will also be like coughing and such. And when I do that cough, like it's a really painful cough, so I also clutch my chest, basically try to, because it'll be like one of those wet coughs that really stings, and I was just like, oh. But I guess, I mean, if you see 100 asthma attacks, you've probably seen 100 asthma attacks. There might be similarities and all that, but even so, it's like, I mean, worry a little bit when I'm coughing or wheezing. Start worrying heavily once I stop.
So do you feel like you just can't get air into your lungs, or?
I mean, I don't think there's been an instance where I felt like I haven't been able to breathe. There's been the instances where it's been really hard and I can feel like little bits going down, and that's when I knew that I was still at the very least going to get through it. I personally haven't experienced a total like blockage. I haven't personally experienced what it feels like to not be able to breathe at all, period. It's never gotten that bad for me. Just mostly because, I mean, my martial arts training, I've learned to deep breathe. I've learned to breathe deeply. I've even been able to like lay on the floor for a while and then just like manually slow down my breathing. And I know what that feels like once the breathing slows down and I barely feel like any air is going in. That's like a deliberate thing and I'm controlling it. And if I need to, I can start that back up. And but yeah, so but it's never gotten to the point where that's involuntary, where that so little air going in is not under my control. So I've never actually gotten near fate. I've never actually gotten to that point where I feel like I can't breathe. I felt like I could barely breathe before, but at that moment I still knew like, all right, I can still get through this.
Besides having your inhaler and taking your inhaler when you need it or you don't need it, do you have to take any daily medications? Do you have to get any testing done occasionally, or?
I used to a lot more often. Back when it was a lot worse, I would regularly go to like a cardiologist and get not a cardiologist, a specialist of some regard.
A pulmonologist.
Yeah, because then I get a pulmonary functions test. And what the actual test looks like is you like put your mouth around this tube thing and you blow into it as hard as you can. Sometimes there's a little graphic of candles, and like your goal is to take a deep breath and then blow out all the candles with that breath. And they interpret that data and what have you. I used to have to do that quite a bit. I haven't had one for quite a while though, like maybe 2 years I think at the very least. But yeah, and then there was I used to take there is like a daily inhaler. I don't know if they use Flovent, if they call it Flovent anymore. I think sometimes they call it QVAR now, where it's like a daily control thing, whereas the albuterol is your emergency rescue. And what you do is you do a puff of that, wait a minute, puff that control again, and then rinse your mouth a bit. Like 3 rinses, and then you're good. And that was the daily control. I used to take another chewable med called Singular. And I believe that was for the asthma. I don't remember for sure off the top of my head, but I remember Singular was a thing. Other than that, like, I haven't had to do regular testing for several years. The one time I did it was like for a special thing. I might need to get a test done if I'm gonna be like cleared for a sporting event or something. Like, of course, like. I once had to, when I once tried to do an event in Portland, because like, oh geez, Portland is such a weird state to try to get and to try to do sports in, at least the sports that I like to do, because they're like, you need this, you not only need this national card that says that you're good, you also need our special like Oregon State card, where you have to get like a blood test and a pulmonary functions test through our like specific clinics, even like that of course aren't covered by your insurance. So it's like because I even got like the blood test done, and it says patient was informed of negative result, and I sent them that, and they're like, no, we want it through our clinics that your insurance definitely won't be covering. And I'm just like, oh geez, Portland, I know you're weird, but at this point you're just annoying. But yeah.
So you said that it's better now than it used to be, like when you were a kid. Is that something that's normal, or do you have to condition yourself, or?
I had to condition myself. Like, I had to make it better. I had to get to that point. Sometimes people can kind of grow out of it, but that's kind of a seldom thing. But I personally had to condition myself. That was my experience.
Okay, is there any other information you think that would be useful to people either with asthma or to tell people about asthma?
People with asthma usually know what they need to know about it, but if they don't, like, I mean, I understand, like, some people are skeptical about spacers, but actually remember the actual science behind it, where like if you just have the 2 fingers in front of your mouth and then puff it, a lot of the medication gets stuck in like around your throat and your mouth. The spacer actually has it so that it gets into your lungs. It's like, if you can get a spacer, do get a spacer, because a spacer is good and it will get more of the medication into your system. For people who don't have asthma and want to know something about it, I mean, don't be afraid to ask if your asthmatic friend is okay, but do be afraid to offer advice, especially if you don't have asthma, because then I'm just like, but yeah.
Great, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today.
All right, no problem.
Thank you for watching Connection. I hope that these conversations show everyone that no matter what we face, no matter what differences we have, we can find common ground. Ultimately, we're all connected.